Yes. Hi, Penny. So good to see you for our last episode.
I know. They come around so quick. I can't believe it.
Yeah, we're wrapping up season 2.
Whoop, whoop.
So today, I wanna bring to the table, to our conversation table, synchronicity.
Yeah.
And use that as a metaphor to bring all our other conversations together in one sweet podcast. What do you say?
I say, let's do it. Let's get synchronized.
So synchronicity in mediumship and the progressive soul, what's it all about? Where would you start with it?
Oh, okay. Well,
easy.
Where do I start with it? That's probably the hard part, I think. It's really intriguing because there's been a lot of synchronicities lately, and part of that synchronicity is a lot of students in classes that I'm teaching or a part of or something have been talking about noticing synchronicities. And there's also the fact that we were talking just before we started this podcast about our own experiences, and I was telling you about some thoughts that I was having and my approach to that, and you were saying,
listeners, I'll jump here. Listeners, we'll talk about these things in season 3, so stay tuned. There's more to come. Sorry, Penny, go on. Just a short ad there.
Go for it. Yeah, let's be inspired. So yeah, we were talking, and then you were saying, well, funny enough, I was having similar thoughts, and we were like, oh, ha, that's funny, synchronicity, and we'd planned to talk about synchronicity in this final session. So how do you summarize that? How do you say, how does it begin? How does it end? How does it work? And I think a lot of people, whether they've got mediumistic ability or not, observe synchronicities in life, observe where there are times where things seem to just kind of flow from one thing to the next, and it's kind of like, yeah, oh wow, and I was only talking about that, I was only thinking about that, I was only just, or they'll be saying, I was just thinking I really need to do, and then the universe provided, type of stuff. So I think synchronicities happen often. How much attention we pay to those synchronicities might be part of the key to it all, because I think some people probably don't pay attention to them that much, or easily fob it off, or don't think anything of it. And when you observe those synchronicities, it seems like the more you observe them, the more they seem to happen. And so I don't think it's happening because just because you're observing it, but I think there's an energy behind it that seems to flow. It's like being in traffic and you're in the flow of the traffic, as opposed to dodging in and out of all the different lanes and different cars and speeding up and slowing down. It's kind of just being in that rhythm and flow of the traffic. That's how I would describe it. And I think it's quite an empowering thing, and it can be really quite exciting as well, because you can sort of feel a sense of joy that you're connected to something more than just being an island of you.
That's really beautifully said. And I was just looking at what we've been chatting about in the previous episodes, and I have here, being on presence and managing emotions and death and grief and all of those things, inner knowledge. And I cannot help but think that synchronicity is also about, it is connected with how mindful and aware we are, not just of ourselves, but perhaps, as you said, of the things around us, the fact that we're not islands. So I want to ask, what would you say, should we connect it to setting intentions, or is it more to it than just setting intentions?
I think setting intentions is part of it and a very important part of it. Intentions, in my own experience over many years, are quite powerful, I've noticed. And I find the best way to set intentions is not to be greedy and to set intentions that are for a greater good, which you will benefit from, but perhaps others will as well. And they usually come in a form of life lessons too. So there is a caveat: be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it and it might not be quite what you thought. And so with everything, there's everything has an action and a reaction and all that kind of stuff. So you can't sort of isolate any one thing and say, well, just setting intentions is it. It's all of these things flowing together. It's realizing and recognizing that there is an essence of you that is connected to the stupendous whole, that is connected to everything, that's connected to nature, other people, to God, or to the universe, depending on your philosophies. And so when you recognize that you are not alone and you are not an island, and that you are also, yes, you're individual in your experience, your observation, your perception, however, you are also a part of the stupendous whole. And I suppose synchronicities, intentions, all of those things merge into and connect with that stupendous whole. And so you can have an individual experience of that and be flowing with. It's better to flow with than swim against, or 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 push for something that perhaps isn't right for you, but you don't know it yet, or that you're not quite ready for. So that synchronicity, intention, purpose, the power of it, the use of words, the energy, all of those things like really come together as a package. And I don't think it's really as, we can try to break them down and look at them as pieces of a puzzle, but ultimately they come together as one puzzle.
You mentioned recognizing quite a few times. How do we go about recognizing synchronicity?
I think it's observing. It's sometimes we're so inner focused, how we feel, what we think about others, how we feel others should be, judgmental of self, judgmental of others. So we tend to focus in that way a lot, which is perhaps an inner perspective with an outer projection. However, to sort of to look outward and be a bit more connected with everything else going on and observant, being observant is the most important thing in an outward way, which has an inner effect.
Gee, Penny, thanks. That's easy. So with that in mind, do we have any ownership on the process or the outcome?
I'd say so. I think we have to put in an effort. We have to put in we have to have a focus and an intention. We have to if we want a lot of money, we have to go to the effort to obtain it, don't we? So you either have to work for it or rob a bank. I'm not recommending that, by the way.
The working hard, right?
but that would still take effort. It still takes planning. It still takes effort. I'm not sure I would want to do that, but it's still anything and everything takes effort. It takes input. So I would say that I've probably somehow lost your question in my analogy there, but ultimately, yes, ownership is about putting in the effort and recognizing what you're in control of and what you're not in control of. So, for example, when setting intentions, you do that with a mindset and a focus for a greater good and for some kind of growth and reward or whatever it may be. However, there's a certain amount that you have to let live and a certain amount that you actually have to put an effort into, because what will happen is the universe will provide you with an experience, and your interaction with that experience will determine what you gain from that, and whether it's positive or negative, and whether your interaction, your action and reaction towards that experience is part of a reward or not. So it requires your effort, and we always have the option as to, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? So yes, there is ownership involved in it, based on your perception and the way you act and react to what is provided in your pathway.
What about letting go?
So yeah, I think that sits well with my perception of setting intention, because it's something that I do once a year, unless there's a special new moon or special sort of occasion in the cosmos that drives me to feel otherwise, to do an interim one. So every winter solstice, I will think about the year ahead and what is my intention. And as an example, one year I put down, I'd like to be a better person. And I'm sure I'm not a bad person, but I think we can always work on ourselves. We can always work on things. I'm an honest person. I pay my bills. I do all these good things. I would never consider committing a crime,
Like robbing a bank.
Like robbing a bank. I would never consider that. So I know, in essence, I am a good person. However, I wanted to be a better person. I wanted to be a better version of myself. And how would that look like? So part of setting the intentions is to sort of set those intentions and let them go, let them be, not to constantly think, right, now how am I going to be a better person today? What can I do? What good deed can I do that's going to make me a better person? Because that's not really the right, to me, that's not really the right way to go about it, because that would be forcing it, which is what I mentioned earlier. So with regards to that, what ended up happening was, and what I usually do is, at the end of in the last week before a winter solstice, I'll look at the intention set for the year ahead that had just been, and I would reflect on, oh, did that happen? Did that get fulfilled somehow, etc., etc. And what happened in the first year that I'd put down that I'd like to be a better person was, and I make no secret of the fact that I've been bullied in my life, and even as an adult, and and that's my interaction with certain people in the world. And in that experience, in that year, I found it within me to send unconditional love and healing to those people, because I recognized that perhaps they might need healing and love more than I did, and perhaps I should send them that love and healing. And it ended up being a really profound experience, because I felt really free afterwards and less of a victim. And so, and when I reflected on those intentions, I realized that it helped me be a better person, because instead of being they're evil, they're horrible, and making negative accusations towards other people, I mean, they may not think they've done anything wrong. I know they have, but they may not think so. And it's not up to me to push it in their in front of them on the table, because if they don't know it, they won't get it anyway. So I sent the healing that they may grow and learn to be better people themselves. So, so it's things like that that happen, and then it has a ripple effect, because you can be more at peace with yourself, and then other people are drawn to that, or so on and so on. So anyway, I digress, as I always do, but hopefully somebody will gain from that. And it's your experience, and it's your effort that you put into it. I had to go to the effort to seek within myself what I needed to do. And it was a difficult thing. It was a difficult thing at the time, but everything worth having takes effort.
You make a really good point here. And I think this makes me, going back to synchronicity, it makes me think about intentions, that sometimes what we wish for might not be easy, despite our best intentions.
Yeah.
To go some places. I mean, wanting to be good or better is a noble pursuit, but it might also involve some really, really uncomfortable situations like the one you just described.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people might have these not unfair, but poorly set expectations of how some of these things happen or go about. I don't know if everybody expects fairies and butterflies on their journeys, and they might have that, but
I would love
might be
that.
some rain.
I'm going to say I would love that. I used to chase butterflies around my front garden when I was a little girl, and I love that. I would love that. I wish the world was all fairies and butterflies, but it actually isn't.
So what would be your suggestion to navigate this in a way in which we don't set ourselves for failure by having unrealistic expectations, but also not having too little expectations, because I think that's unhealthy as well. And bringing it back to synchronicity, how can we make it work in such a way that it serves us first and foremost, almost, if that's not too much to ask?
Okay, thanks, Sandra. Well, let's say I'm going to give everybody a little bit of my penny-wise observation. In terms of my own experience going as a student to classes, workshops, etc., later in life, my intention, my philosophy was, I'm drawn to a course, and I would say to the universe, or to my inner self, whatever you want to call it, I'm going on this course because I'm drawn to this course, and whichever tutor I end up with will be the right tutor for me for this week. And I would have no expectation on what I was going to get out of that learning experience. I was there for specific topics of mediumship, of spiritualism, or whatever it might be. So there is an intent and a purpose in the topic of which I was going to study. but I tried to have little expectation of the teacher and of myself in those weeks, in the sense of I wanted to have an experience that was going to be right for me at that time. Therefore, I was entrusting I would end up with not just the right teacher, but the right group of people to go through an experience and learn whatever it was I needed to learn and experience at that time. Whereas I would observe some people who would want to swap teachers, or they wanted this, or they wanted that, or they were very adamant they wanted to learn a specific thing they wanted, and so seemed disappointed or dissatisfied in some way. And whereas I went with the flow, I went with wherever I went and whoever I ended up with, and so on and so forth. And I found I walked away with much more than I expected if I was to lay expectations down. And it was a richer experience. So your question is about expectation and lack of expectation. I think it's having let's say, a flexible boundary of, I'm here for an experience, and whatever that experience is meant to be in this time and space will be, and that will I found I walked away with not just teachings of mediumship or spiritualism, whatever the topic was, but I also walked away with experiences of other people and their experience. So I gained more inside myself than just the teachings I went for, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me. Hope it makes sense to the listeners as well. So, synchronicity and the progressive soul. Let's wrap up with this last idea and literally bring it all together. What do you have for me?
Oh, no pressure. Literally, just bring it all together, Penny. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's that simple. I think it's not possible to just tie this up into a pretty little bow for everybody. I think that it's important that as progressive souls, each one of us, we should recognize our inner and outer journey and the interaction of those in synchronicity with each other, and be observant, be joyful about those synchronicities, go with the flow more, and you might be pleasantly surprised where you find yourself.
See, Penny, I had full confidence in you. Thank you so much.